What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, Rusty Biceps 30 here, and we're back with episode 41 of the video game therapy series. Hope you guys are having a good day so far. I don't know why I said that. I never say stuff like that, but maybe you're having a bad day, and that came in well. Good and bad days, even just as a brief aside here before we get into the more usual topics of my diatribes. Good and bad days, I tend to view them quite neutrally. I kind of really take a yin yang approach to days, which sometimes is challenging because it doesn't seem that way sometimes. And what I mean by that is I mean that I don't tend to panic when I have a couple good days or a couple bad days in a row. I actually panic when I have a couple of good days in a row only because I kind of believe that I think good days mean that bad days are coming and bad days mean that good days are coming kind of thing. Although sometimes that is hard to get behind because it just seems like they all suck sometimes. But I don't know. Sometimes maybe the highs are a multiple higher than the lows, and so it kind of evens out, I suppose, if you take a bunch of days that are kind of bad but bearable with days that are unbelievably good. So I don't know. I again tend to not put too much stress on the good and bad days. I really do think it evens out for the most part. And I don't know. I guess that is separate from being in a unsustainable or bad setting. I think those are different ideas entirely, in the sense that it's possible to be miserable and not necessarily ever have and have it be it's a function of your environment and not necessarily that, oh, good days are coming kind of thing. It's like, no, like you actually just need to get out of whatever it is that you're stuck in right now. So I think those are two very different things, but it's especially all things equal, meaning that you've generally been content at your setting and your kind of day in day outs. The good and bad are again kind of these things that come and go, and it's not stuff that I panic particularly too much about. But anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, I wanted to start this episode off with a prediction of sorts. I'm not really one for predictions per se, as they often tend to be self-fulfilling prophecies and not necessarily anything other than that. But my prediction really is that it's unfortunate that this is the prediction that I am making, but I think that as time goes on, I will continue to be, for whether it's my own undoing or the undoing of greater social forces at play beyond my control, I tend to see myself as a increasingly more as an outsider, in the sense that I take contrarian views on more and more things that tend to pop up in different places. And I suppose the most I guess not really obvious, but the most maybe blatant sign of this in my eyes is just my blatant disregard and apathy towards any kind of advertising material. And what I mean by that is that my first instinct whenever I see any kind of advertising claim or any kind of promotional material is literally just bullshit, like bullshit. And unfortunately, whether it's again my own convincing of this or a fact, I tend to be right when I call bullshit on certain things. So especially products that peddle, I mean, God knows what certain products peddle these days, but a lot of them I have very little faith that their words hold up to scrutiny. And this is most easily seen in a lot of I don't know, big tech companies and their products that promote this or that feature, privacy, especially ones that are related to um, uh, the the potency of their features and the uh, privacy and security of their systems, especially in technology. And I can only really vouch for that area of things. Like if I were a locksmith, I'd be vouching on behalf of the lock companies sucking or something like that. I don't really know, but either way, my expertise is more in the area of technology, so I can confidently debunk those claims more. But I'm certain if if I was a food expert, I would be denying or calling bullshit on all the food claims and everything they say in there. And not to say that I believe anything that is food related. I've just as much reason not to believe any of it than I do to believe any one claim. So I'm more likely to just not believe any of it and call bullshit to everything. So I predict that as time goes on, I'll become more and more, I don't know, kind of removed from general ideologies and thoughts. If I'm not already, I mean, I'm probably already pretty removed when compared to maybe your average American or media consumer or whatever. I'm not even sure what to call anybody these days, but I don't know. I'm more willing to believe things are a conspiracy than they are to believe that they are this, exactly as advertised. I'm very quick to claim something as bullshit. But anyway, well, I hope that's unfortunate. Anyway, yeah. So I'm not even really sure what else to stack on top of that. It's just unfortunate. I just find myself more and more skeptical of anything that is said. Certainly when it comes to products and people peddling stuff, and I don't know. I just have very little faith in the integrity of any kind of online media. And I suppose that's true for a lot of people. People are generally more trusting of humans telling them stuff, even if it's humans in person versus humans through an online media. I'd be curious to see if there were any further, I guess, correlations between those groups, in the sense that, or is there any more data between what something said in person to you versus something said online via a person. So, like, for example, like a YouTuber that somebody has a parasocial relationship with, so to speak. Them showing a product versus your friend showing a product in person, right? What has more of an effect on certain things? And I guess the reason I'm thinking about this at all is just because I have been thinking about, not really for any particular reason. I guess I'm just reading certain things that are related to propaganda in one way or the other. So, starting with, what is considered propaganda, what different forms does it take? And I think propaganda generally has the vibe of war, I think of propaganda, I think of like war propaganda, right? Which is one form of it, but I think lots of otherwise innocuous advertising can become, especially if kind of done on behalf of an entire industry, can become propaganda in its own right, which is a scary, unfortunate, I don't even know, just bad reality to live in, where, propaganda is not held to the direst of times, right? It's the boy who cried wolf thing all over again, right? If things are constantly hyped up to be better than they are, or more dangerous than they are, or whatever percent more inflated than its actual stuff, then when the time does come when something is as good as it is or as bad as it is, and people need to take it serious, no one's gonna give a shit. So I suppose the time I see a product that actually does what it's advertising to do, I will not believe it, and I'll be late to the hype train. But people that follow stuff around that, has any little bit of any ounce of truth in their advertising claims that are fools. In my view, it's unfortunate that I guess advertising or other media really as a whole has been commandeered by people that are incentivized to make bullshit claims on stuff and then profit off the difference, I suppose. But alas, that's nothing I have influence or control over, so there's not much I can do there. But I guess it's just me sombering in the reality of what could have been or what was, or probably was never I guess advertising was never really done well, so to speak. It just felt like there were times where it wasn't as blatant in its falsehoods and it as is today. And in a sense, a lot of it is so emulation based in the sense that companies just copy what other companies do, and then it's not my fault that I made fake claims. Well, if we don't make fake claims, we can't compete with XYZ. It's like, well, if they didn't make fake claims about their product first, we wouldn't have done it. It's this whole I don't even know what to call it, chicken egg thing, where in order to remain competitive in an environment, you have to stoop to the level of competitors, which should not be the model, right? It should be ascending beyond competitors, but too often it is, that's not the case. But anyway, yeah, so I find myself more and more skeptical of really anything, especially anything online. So I've taken active steps to remove myself from any online spheres that to try to limit the influence at all that any kind of online media has on my day-to-day workflow, I guess. I don't know. So I discovered the beauty, power, whatever, the novelty of RSS feeds recently. I don't even know what the acronym stands for, to be honest. It's like, I think people have made it, have changed it throughout the years. So it's really simple something. I don't even know what it is, but it's more or less just instead of any kind of website or algorithm in any way serving you content in whatever fashion it decides is the most relevant to you. You instead, it's kind of almost just like rolling back YouTube back when it showed you who you were subscribed to versus just fetching you whatever content you're going to click on. And I guess I can't really blame the business side of YouTube for doing that, because it does work. I mean, I do click on the videos that were recommended to me when I'm plugged into YouTube. So my solution is more so to unplug from YouTube and only really find and consume content from creators that I've asked it to. Right, I'm not going to be showing any new creators or anything. So it kind of is forcing upon a network effect of creators to refer other creators in order for me to discover any new people. But until then, I'm locked into the few people that I decide. So I'm still in the process of kind of merging merging everything over to RSS style feeds instead of algorithmically generated content. But anyway, I want to talk about the kind of the death of community in some ways, and implications of that, like how it died, why it died, what is lost, and I think it stems from increased globalization. And I'm just going to preface this entire conversation with discussion of with myself, which is, I guess you can call it a conversation, a one-sided conversation. Preface the entire thing with I'm not assigning blame or making any predictions. Well, any overt predictions that I believe are accurate. I'm merely speaking in hypotheticals that seem to be the case or might be or whatnot. So don't take any of this as expressed fact or even as a strongly expressed opinion. So just a disclaimer, even just to cover my own ass when I listen to this later to see how crazy I was sounded. But increased globalization, and this is increased even like dependence on other economies, increased dependencies on things that are not in your radius. So I suppose back in hunter-gatherer village days, everything that you needed to live the life that you led or whatever that verb tense is, was in a small radius to you, meaning that the food that you had was in a small radius. The people that you spoke with were, again, in a small radius, within short traveling distance to you. So, that came with lots of disadvantages, granted. Shortages of food or any kind of other resource were, at a local level, were debilitating, if not just the end of those local communities. So it's not like it's just better to have eaten everything local, because like sometimes it just doesn't work. You can't always grow things locally, especially if you live in an area that doesn't support farming. So it allowed us to kind of live in places that you'd otherwise not be able to live, because that area didn't have what it needs for people to live. So I guess that's one thing. But part of what the, I guess, greater interdependence does is it forces it kind of limits the behavior of the autonomy of individuals and smaller communities at their own level. So even thinking beyond food and hunter-gatherer style, living conditions, governments as an idea, centralized governments are, even centralized locally, are such that in one way or the other there is limitations of actions one could do in that area, meaning that in order for a system to function, the system of we trade you wheat for your bread, or wheat and bread. We trade our bread for your carrots, and you give us horses because you're farther down south, and you give us enough horses, and we'll give you pigs or something, and if something happens, we'll help you, whatever. Even just like agreements between communities done in a government style fashion, only caused a certain segmentation or specialization of certain areas to do certain things. And it would be unheard of in a villager times, or whatever you want to call it, for entire miles and miles of farmland being mechanized and automated for the sole purpose of one crop or one thing. And obviously that allows us to grow at different levels and have certain things that we wouldn't otherwise have, but it has created a kind of dependence on, okay, well, since I've kind of sold all the way into just making bread, you guys got to have my ass, because I can't just live on bread. Like, I'm going to die if I can't have, the donkeys or whatever I need, or whatever else it is that, you've kind of sacrificed your autonomy for interdependence for. Now, granted, there's probably things that are rewarded because of, you, I suppose, not specializing. So there's things that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. Maybe donkeys weren't native to your area or something. But instead now you don't really have a choice to not bake bread. You kind of have to. You're kind of locked into that thing. So I suppose that is a central kind of baseline for, okay, as we grow in societies and become interdependent, we lose a certain amount of autonomy, or I suppose freedom would be one way of putting it, in the sense that I can't just like decide to wake up and just not bake the bread because I've, it's important now that, I'm not just providing it for myself, it's for other people. So I have to, there's a certain amount of trust in the greater system that you have to sacrifice some autonomy for. But when done at the scale that we're at today, so this is the global scale. We've obviously seen supply chain disruptions that happen as a result of things that are so far beyond local that it'd be hilarious to think that any kind of weather in your area affected, the silicon chip production in Taiwan or something. So it's obviously ridiculous to draw any conclusions there. But you ultimately, again, you have just as much control over whatever happens there. But it equally has an impact on your local area in a way that it may not have happened before. And there are bad things that come with that as well. So it's not like there is, it's all good that everything can now be outsourced everywhere, because there's, that the problem wouldn't have otherwise affected you had it been local dependence versus a national one. But even socially, I think there are a lot of problems with what has happened to local communities. In the same way, and to this point, I've talked about like food and like random other stuff like technology, like computers or something, as the basis for, I guess, this conversation on globalization. But I want to talk about the social part of it, because that's kind of what the point of. That's what I was trying to get at to start with. I suppose I just went on these weird tangents about food and stuff, but you can't really globalize socialization, if that makes sense. And the way this comes out is social media is a joke in terms of its like social benefit. I have no faith that it is a net positive in its in what it's done. I'm not saying that there isn't new things that have arisen and individually can be considered good. And that means that, I could make this video could theoretically reach millions of people in a way that it would have never reached anyone, any kind of scale like that before. But now it has that capacity, right? I can, instead of seeing, memes from my local area, I can now see memes from anywhere, and I get to see the best memes in the world because it's we're so globalized. But I don't think I don't think quality inherently was always the end goal of socialization, right? I don't think it was the reason I talk to my mom or my sister was because they're the smartest and the wisest in the land and the best, and they hold a superlative when it comes to the effect of socializing with them. It was more rather of who's there, right? Who's shares kind of the physical space with you, and that was really the only really litmus test for who you talk to and interact with, right? So if you work the same job as somebody, you're going to talk to somebody, and I think the moment you begin to try and treat it as products, as like, oh, the best, this is the best person to socialize with and the best content that's being created, you run into a lot of problems with, socialization at its core in the sense of what it's supposed to be doing, right? It's not, the point of it isn't that it is supposed to be a superlative or the best impact on you. It's supposed to be I guess it's a facet of our being that isn't necessarily, it's strongly tied to our well-being, but the quality of a social interaction is not determined by the volume in which something has reach, or even the merit of the interaction in and of itself. So, social interactions, whatever, your first kiss or something is not is not important to you because it was the best first kiss of all time, right? It was the only thing that was it was this cosmic beginning. Like no one has ever seen something that's no. It's special because it is unique to you. It's something that happened to you, to to your face, and to your body that is again is not was never been is not going to be replicated ever, and it's unique in that sense, and that's where it's there's sentimental value there, and that's not so much as like there's no way to commoditize that into some kind of it can be better in the same way you could improve some kind of product, right? And maybe it's because social interactions at their core are these temporal memories that are strung together, and not these products can be iterated on and improved. So social media as a method of globalizing one's social interactions to a cosmic scale. You only see the best. You see an infinite number. Like you can't your first kiss doesn't become more important if if it happens 5,000 times and you've had the best when compared to other. It's not there's no competition involved in that thing, and it's not and it's special because it's special because it's small almost, and it's insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And I don't think large globalized products are mesh very well with ideas that are kind of special because they're insignificant and small, right? I say it's the little things, but there's not those those aren't really what is being prioritized, or is what is prioritized by social media companies. And so I think we're seeing a lot of fallout from people who lack community. They kind of lack any kind of I don't know, community like they would have had in the village sense. They kind of, there's no parents seem to be disconnected from kids, and kids are trying to find spaces online that they relate to. And even that's just more of an intergenerational thing. I think even people trying to find peers within their group, I think people have less friends than they once did. And again, but social media allows us to socialize to an extent never before seen possible. But it's not, again, I think the reason it fails because it's not, the point of socialization isn't to have it on the widest and largest scale and be the best and have the most efficient technology. No, the point of it is that a lot of the social interactions that are most important are stupid. They're unique. They are not important, and they're special because they're funny to you, and it's not a globalized thing, right? I mean, again, my first kiss means nothing to literally anybody else, so it's important in that sense, and it's not something that would ever find any traction on social media. And I think people miss a lot of those personal kind of ephemeral interactions. You don't really get those on these giant social media platforms. So I don't know. I just think it, and in the sense we've commoditized it to the extent we've done, and we've kind of we've done capitalism on socializing with people. It doesn't really work. I think people are seeing that, and now it's even just like a way to peddle pyramid schemes and make money and stuff, and whatever, and that's fine. But I think it's not all hope is lost. I don't think it's the technology's fault itself. It's not the sense that it's not the it's not the code's fault, or it's not the processor's fault that we designed something. I think there are potentially ways to remedy a social media like structure into something that is more local and is effective, right? I just think I don't know what that looks like, to be honest, and it certainly isn't something that would pick up a head of steam. It's not a company, right, that would jump off and launch, because the whole point of the company that would jump off and launch is that it's globalized, right? It can be everywhere. It can monetize. It can make money. That defeats the entire purpose of what I'm talking about when it comes to socialization. That's not why. I don't think that's why we value socialization. It's not. And socialization, I don't mean in the sense I mean that in the sense of like socializing, like talking to people, interacting with friends, meeting people, whatnot. We don't. That is not going to happen on some mega Uber like platform, right? We even like we've seen it as a failure on these dating app fronts. These giant mega things trying to, commoditize, what dating, which is it's a spontaneous thing, right? It's not. It's historically has been a spontaneous thing, and I think our desire as humans to harness the spontaneous and to, I don't know, to monetize it to make a bunch of money for some jackass in California. That is that it's not going to work. Again, I'm not saying that you can't create a business out of it, because sure you can. Your business can make $1 billion, but it doesn't provide the value, right? So Tinder probably has made a gajillion bucks from their product, and people would label it as a success, right? It's and maybe there's even couples that have met on Tinder and claim it to be great and to be the saving grace of dating or whatnot. But as a whole, I think you still can't really remove the spontaneous local community-based matchmaking that has dominated historical relationships, and I think our attempts to replicate that on any kind of large scale have largely flopped. Because, and again, you can look at examples, but examples aren't really what's driving the whole narrative. People are generally dating and having children and being together less, so it's not like you can't call it a success, right? If it was more successful, it would have improved or something. And I mean, of course, there's 1,000 other causes and reasons why one thing is, why it's happening or why it's not or whatever. So I can't really definitively say why or why not. I can't say in isolation that it is because of dating apps as a failure, but there's lots of factors at play that nothing has worked so far, including Tinder. So anyway, I'll stop talking about that now because I don't know. I'm done talking about it. Anyway, let's move on to something else. Yeah, let's see. So I am kind of embracing trying to, again, everything's kind of an attempt. Nothing is ever really a finished, polished ordeal, but I'm trying to embrace more of a minimalist habits. So having less stuff, consuming less stuff, and, even just to some extent doing less stuff, right? Because some people I'm a minimalist, and they just they have to be traveling to a different country every other week. But that's kind of just not minimalism, and is just consumption or overconsumption in a different way. It's not like, you're not really solving the problem of needing and doing less by needing to be in a different country every 2 days. So that is in itself is kind of stupid. But another kind of stupid principle I've noticed around minimalism is an aesthetic minimalism versus a functional minimalism. And I think I see this the most with products that are peddled, like minimalist products. But the products themselves are superfluous. And I think the whole point of minimalism is to have less stuff. And if you're selling stuff, then you're kind of losing the point of having less stuff in the first place. An example would be a fashionable, minimalist desk lamp or something. Your room probably has a light in it already, right? So unless you really, and this is like a specific accessory for maybe papers that are under your monitor. I have a light on my monitor too, but so I'm kind of hypocritical for even saying this, but I don't think minimalist crap is, that's not the point of having less stuff, is to it being sleek. So to me, the way I've dubbed it is just a functional minimalism in the sense of you will functionally have less stuff to worry about versus an aesthetic minimalism, which is like, it kind of looks sleek and it's, Apple, whatever. That's not minimalism. You're kind of ruining. That's not it. You still have more. You're still buying more shit. It's not. You haven't really you haven't minimalized. You haven't minimized anything. All you've done is just buy more shit that maybe it's there's not a big brand on it or doesn't look as busy, but that's still not less stuff. So I don't know. I would draw a clear line between functional minimalism versus aesthetic minimalism, and I think that's my whole real argument here is that there are ironically companies that are trying to capitalize off of people that want to be minimalist, and so the answer is not to buy stuff that looks simple or whatever. It's not to buy products that have that nice Apple sleek look. No, the solution is the point of it is to buy less stuff. So stop buying stuff. If you call yourself a minimalist, don't just buy minimalist architecture type stuff. That's the opposite of what the whole point of it is. So I don't know. It just kind of pisses me off that there are companies that, of course, have to shill these minimalist products to suckers that are have taken an interest in being and having less stuff, but ironically they end up buying more shit that is to clog up all their life. So anyway, yeah. So I guess I'm I'm trying to be a functional minimalist, not just an aesthetic minimalist, right? So having whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that beef. So, yeah. Something I've also kind of been thinking about, I suppose, is I guess people are having, or people have these like midlife crises and quarter life crises and 3/4 life crises. There's a crisis at every juncture, right? I feel like that's just buzzwords people throw around these days. And to be honest, I tune most of that out anyway, so I couldn't give a shit. But I think a certain crisis that people hit at some juncture in their life, and that to some extent feels like I've been in this section for like, I don't know, 4 years now of like, what am I doing kind of thing with my life as a greater idea. And everyone kind of runs into this, what am I doing with my life? What's the way? And I think some people, kind of just pitter patter around, and because they don't know exactly what they want to do, they don't really do anything. And I think that is, is the wrong move, right? I think people that are like, oh, I'm gonna go out to California and be a waiter at a breakfast shop or something, and to try and find myself because I don't want to, and then they, just end up kind of fighting financial insecurity for, the main part of their 20s or something, because they decided to find themselves or something. But then they realized that their passion was in investment banking. So, but other people kind of do the opposite, where they swear they know what they want to do. They want, from the day they were born, they've always wanted to be an investment banker. So they just they sell out, they go in, and they immediately kind of do everything they need to do to become an investment banker. And I think for them, the crisis doesn't always hit until later. They might turn, I don't know, they'll turn 35 or 40 before they realize that they haven't contributed anything to society. And I think that's part of what I'm getting at here is I think everyone wants to make their mark in one way or the other. And some people make their mark through work, which personally I think is kind of a foolish means to make your mark, because of its ephemeral nature, in the sense that the work I do now, right, the Excel spreadsheets that I make, the docs that I make, the meetings that I have, the sales numbers that I put forth, fill in the blank with whatever it is that your work is. It's so damn important to you. It is ultimately not going to mean anything. um, and probably sooner rather than later. Even if you think that your master sales spreadsheet and your script is going to be here to stay forever, it probably will be shuffled out in a couple years. Maybe if you're lucky, it's something that sticks around one company for 20 years or something. I don't, who knows, right? It doesn't really matter what you think is so important. But so I think finding meaning or finding your I don't know, your contribution to society in your work, even if you have even if you're an astronaut or something, it is kind of a stupid thing because you're not really going to be remembered. Some people decide to I don't know, make stuff in obscurity, and I'm talking about myself here even because ironically, what as pointless as these stupid videos are, and I mean I'm playing Minecraft even is ephemeral enough. I mean, I could delete this world in 5 seconds, really, and it would be gone forever, and all this work would be gone. But I think even the transcripts of these videos and things that are saved are arguably the most important contribution I've made to society, because unfortunately there isn't. It's designed in a way that isn't really privy to permanent things that are not everyone can create their own religion, so to speak, and have a lasting, millennium impact on things. And plus, most people don't even care because, once you're dead, why does it even matter what you did, really? So a lot of people end up just kind of putting their, sense of importance and their lasting contribution and they're my kids or my lasting contribution, which I suppose isn't really something I can argue with because I don't have any kids. But even if I did, it's not like there are things there that I don't have the knowledge or experience to be able to comment on. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's like once you have kids, your whole world is like, my kids are the most important things. But the way I see it, a lot of kids end up just being shitheads and not really your little delinquent kid that has gotten arrested at 17 or something is like the most important contribution in your life. Or what's he going to do? Is he going to be a firefighter or something? And I mean, sure, even then, but I guess a firefighter is a bad example because you could be saving lives, but the lives themselves, again, are all ephemeral. Like, we're all going to die and move on, but I'm talking about a lasting, almost everlasting contribution, right? And I think to some extent there really is none. There's not, it's unfortunate, but I think everybody is forgotten at some point. Some people last a long time. Abraham Lincoln has been, will be quoted for a long, long time going forward. But so many people have died and passed on with no real contribution. And so I don't know. There's not really a great answer to like what if you're kind of thinking about your post-mortem contribution to either society or the world or the ether, I suppose in my case. What does that even look like? It certainly isn't, me writing this, this nice, JavaScript app. Who cares? Like, that is not gonna do anything. Even if I wrote an operating system, like, again, I guess the Temple OS guy was pretty cool because that's like it's a novel thing and people are gonna remember that for a while. But ultimately, that will, I guess in some ways that kind of is their master contribution, and that isn't any more silly than like these stupid videos. So, in kind of an ironic way of saying that a lot of work doesn't really matter, this doesn't either. But it is also, in my eyes, the most lasting contribution I'm making into the ether is me with these these kind of pointless ranty videos, because at least in a lot of ways it's an authentic enough reflection of me and what I meant and what I'm doing and how I think, et cetera, in a way that can't be captured by the JavaScript app that I wrote for my company. Whatever. It's not going to be, that is not going to encapsulate my lasting contribution to the world in a way that these videos might. Now, even so, these videos aren't a exact perfect, representation of me in every conceivable way, and they house all my opinions and thoughts and beliefs. No, there's an unbelievable amount of missing from all that. But one, no one's really going to care about any of that, and no one's going to care about these videos anyway. But in some ways, this is a distilled, yet still, authentic enough version of what, more so than anything else that I'm doing, right? Anything I'm doing with any kind of work or with a degree or with whatever, if I made a pair of shoes or something, it's not really going to be encapsulated in the same way that these videos might be. So it's kind of ironic that this, to me, seems like my most important contributions to date. So I don't know. I guess you can take note of that while you're mindlessly not listening to me ramble on about things. Me saying this is the most important thing that I'm working on, but I think it is. I mean, again, I can't, the work that I do for like work, to make money is, will ultimately be forgotten far sooner than this video, which again is kind of like ironic, funny, stupid, sad. I don't even know. There's any number of adjectives to describe that, but I don't know. It's interesting to think of it in that way. So that's why I do, even if I don't want to, I even kind of make myself get on here and do this, because I know that even when even when I'm 50 or something, if I make it that far, I'll forget all the days of work that I did, all the JavaScript apps that I wrote, all the meetings I had, documents and Excel sheets I made. All of that will be forgotten. And this video will too, but it'll still remain as a more accurate reflection of what I was thinking or doing or being at any given time, more so than, I remember making this JavaScript app kind of thing. So these are a kind of a more permanent archive of, I don't know, me, I suppose, because everyone kind of has this innate desire to be something, right? To be someone, or to have some kind of an impact. And I don't think any human is any exception, and I'm a human. I'm not a lizard person. So and again, I think that this is the mode that it takes for me. So I don't know. Yeah. So I guess you're welcome for me posting this in I guess what really should be a void, because that's more or less what YouTube algorithm is a void, just to toss things. But anyway, and I guess the last topic, if we're talking about the ephemerality of life, that's kind of the word of the day, ephemeral in all its variations. I spent, as really anyone does, I think, I spent time kind of contemplating life after death, right? What does this afterlife look like? And you can accept a religious perspective and have your questions answered. You can accept a pseudo-religious perspective and also have your questions answered. You can kind of do any of that, but part of and it's people that debate and get all heated over this. What the fuck is the point? I think it's very much something that is, you're not going to know until you know, and once you know, you're not going to be able to share it with anyone. I think people that have died and come back to life are more so living out whatever hallucinations or delusions that they lived out in those brief moments. And anyone who swears to have the answers there is an idiot. So this comes into the territory where even for me, as kind of this abstract thinker, I find it more and more irrelevant as to why it is important to even to discuss in the first place. It's like it doesn't really matter. At this point, this level of abstract thinking is incredibly impractical. And I think that's kind of one area that I might be different than many other quote-unquote practical thinkers, is that I do or not practical thinkers, abstract thinkers. I tend to be practical when compared to some other abstract thinkers that can go on and talk about all this stuff. I try to keep it within the realm of like, okay, what is actually relevant or important at all, and those that aren't, it tends not to be too interesting to me, right? I'm not incredibly interested in debating, whether it's, you go to a land of milk and honey, or you go to a, 72 Virgin Island or whatever. I don't even know what the different the different life after death kind of modus operandi are, but it's not something I find particularly useful in the time I have in a existence that I can see in front of me, right? That I can interact with in the world that I live in. So it's kind of like debating the semantics of a game within another game, right? So if I'm playing Minecraft, there's no point in me, my choice is to either play Minecraft or debate about, Diablo or something. I'm playing Minecraft. There's no amount of, within the game of Minecraft, there's no amount of influence I have on anything beyond just this game. So there's no point in not, in ignoring, what's right in front of me, right? Minecraft's open, it's right here, right? And once I guess, metaphorically die and go on to Diablo, now I can, think we could, by that point it'll be too late to share with the Minecraft world. So I don't know. I guess putting that in video game terms makes it sound extra stupid, but the whole point was it was kind of stupid to begin with. So it's not really worth me describing or, talking about in depth. And I've really tried, even to some extent, to talk about it and dive into it, but it, it always kind of wraps around to like, okay, so what? Who cares? It doesn't really matter either way. So I don't know. It's maybe there'll become a day where it is of more interest to me, but I think for the time being, it's not something that not a rabbit hole I'd want to jump in and spend a lot of time thinking about, just because it does seem truly impractical, even in abstract terms, where I tend to get pseudo practical, right? I don't think the abstract topics I cover are entirely impractical, but they are certainly pseudo impractical. But I have yet to really go off the deep end and go into pure impracticality in terms of stuff that is literally pointless. But I don't know. Maybe I will in other things, and maybe I'll change my mind on this at some point later. But for now, yeah. But anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Thanks for watching. Kind of took some weird routes around topics today, but maybe I'll get more on things next time. But anyway, thanks for watching, and peace out.